It's a release day for the new Reebok Twilight Zone OTZ Cherry Red, and we're gonna check it out today. Hey guys, welcome back to Kicks Reasons channel. Today we're looking at the new and just releasing today colorway of the Pump Twilight Zone, or Pump TZ, how they call it right now. I mentioned in my previous video, I'm not sure why they abbreviated the name now. Maybe because it's not the same shoe, maybe because we don't have the ERS here anymore, maybe because of naming disputes with the popular TV show, and it really doesn't matter because it's almost entirely the same shoe minus the midsole. Obviously, I mentioned in the previous video. We're gonna check out this one today. We're gonna compare it to the previous release, and I'm gonna tell you what's the differences and what is the same with that other one. Now, a little backstory. When this shoe came out, actually this is the first colorway I saw back then, and this is my personal favorite, the cherry red, followed by the yellow neon. Hopefully that one is going to release as well. And then we had another original colorway, which was kind of a bright blue or kind of bright royale colorway with combination of some red hints. And finally it was the gray pair, and all these four were initially released throughout that same year that the shoe was released. Highly popular shoe among a lot of players on the NBA, a lot of players that had contract with Reebok. Of course, most noticeable was Dominique Wilkins. He was a big name in the NBA at the time. He was one of the biggest brand ambassadors for Reebok. So he was rocking this shoe and the neon very prominently on the court. Obviously, again, I mentioned it many times before, the original one had the ERS. This one has the modern day Hexalite because they're reusing the tooling from the Omnizone 2. In other words, the midsole and outsole are the same ones in the latest retros for the Omnizone 2, when the original one was with the energy return system in the back. Now, obviously, you're gonna notice some immediate differences with the previous release. The gray pair came out with this kind of pre-aged midsole, slightly yellowing, which I actually like because it makes them look just like the original one, or more OG like. And for some reason, they seem a little bit more accurate, a little bit higher. Reebok are using the same leather on the toe box. The rest of it is synthetic, which I'm not offended by. And I mentioned that before. A lot of companies, including Reebok back in the day, were doing the same thing. They're giving you genuine leather where genuine leather is needed and is a must, which is the toe box, where it's going to be creasing and it's going to look great once it's creased. But the rest of the shoe is synthetic. Now, of course, back in the day, this specific model was all around genuine leather. Early 90s was one of the best times to get sneakers because most of the models were entirely genuine leather and they looked absolutely beautiful. But it doesn't matter. Like I mentioned before, I'm not offended by that. At least they kept the leather where it needs to be. We have a slightly different shade of a pump. The pump here on the cherry red is almost mimicking the cherry red color around. The original pair obviously had the same exact orange pump across all the colorways. This was one of the distinct thing about Reebok basketball. The color of the pump matched the actual basketball that you play with. And just like the previous colorway, we have a functional pump, but you have to use a lot of force when you thumb. Be careful not to damage your thumb because it's going to take a lot of pumping, a lot of hitting on that pump to get some air inside and feel it coming in and getting extracted out. So yeah, the pumps don't function just like they were back in the early 90s or mid 90s or throughout the 90s, but we've talked about that before and it's no surprise. We're looking at the exact same insole, run out of the mill, nothing fancy, no Ortholite, no Reebok Athletics, no arch support, none of that stuff. It's just a simple insole. And these are produced in December of 22. So again, very recently, a couple months ago. And we're looking at the same exact beautiful stitching Reebok and basketball on the tongue right below the pump. And one of the things that I actually really liked in the early 90s by Reebok, they were stitching the name of the company and the sport that shoe was tailored for. Tennis, cross training, basketball, volleyball, running, stuff like that. It was written on the tongue and that was excellent. Inner liner here is exactly the same, just like on the previous release, the gray one. It's the same type of padding, and the inner liner is mimicking kind of those towel socks from late 80s and early 90s. So I've asked on Instagram which one is your favorite so far. A lot of people said they're really favoring the gray pair, probably because, like I mentioned, they look more up to the original one with the orange hands and with the kind of pre-yellowed midsole. Maybe they're right about that. Personally, I said the Cherry Red is my favorite colorway. It's not exactly like the original one was, but I was not expecting it to be again. And when it comes to fit and comfort, they fit exactly the same one as the previous release. Go your true size with no problem. Even with the pump, you're not gonna feel any pinching or any pushing down on your foot. The midsole is exactly the same compound, very soft. So whatever they changed in the last couple of years, the midsole is very nice and comfortable. And lack of the original Hexalite is not really preventing us from having some nice experience with that shoe. Stitching on the side is Reebok, but this time around the black one is highlighted just like on the original one with the Cherry Red stitching, where the gray one it's only black on the side and not highlighted. I believe on the original pair we had the reserved or R right above the O, which was part of the logo back in the day. Now we don't have that anymore. And as mentioned before, no ERS and branding on the side of the midsole because we don't have that technology anymore. But yeah, overall, I think the materials are excellent. Very similar to the previous release. And this is another great colorway coming in. I'm really hoping that Reebok are going to bring the neon yellow as well. And of course, the blue one, because we need to have all four original colorways, and then after that they can do collaborations and other crazy colorways, but I am always stickler for the original ones, and hopefully we're gonna get all the original colorways released. This shoe was wildly popular back in the day, and so far I think a lot of people liking it as well, and it's still popular today. So a lot of people bought this one, a lot of people have been waiting for it. So I think Reebok are having a winner on their hands if they keep releasing the original colorways. Of course, everybody is complaining about ERS, but you know what? Last time this shoe released with ERS about 10-11 years ago, and the Omnizone 1, not a lot of these people went out and bought it. Personally, I have a couple pairs from the Omnizone 1, and I didn't even buy any of the retros of this shoe because they were somewhat limited, I think. They got snatched super fast. They went out and on the resale market, they were selling for way above what I'm willing to pay, so I kind of skipped this whole release. But I got some of the Omnizone 1s with the ERS midsole, and I have to say the comfort is not as in the original one, and ERS has always been a subpar to the original Hexalite, so don't miss it that much. It would have been nice, but no sense of beating the dead horse. I prefer the shoes to come out in this form with the original proper colors, with the proper shape, with the genuine leather on the top, and of course with the original pump. They look fantastic, and these are going to be worn all the time. I will be showing them off in public constantly because I love this model. So yeah, that's pretty much it, guys. Hit the thumbs up if you like the video. Stay tuned to the channel. Subscribe if you're new. Check out the rest of the videos coming up in the channel. I will have a ton of new videos coming up. Like I mentioned, I have plenty of new pairs in the house to be reviewed and show it to you guys. You're gonna love them. Until next time, you have a wonderful day.